Hi everybody, today I want to talk about this hidden gem of a play that I just found out about. It's called Hecuba and it's written by Euripides, the same guy that wrote Medea, and it's a tragic story. Like it's just bad things that happen back to back to back, and it really embodies the idea of having a giant fall from grace. So the story starts off with Polydorus, and he was once the son of Queen Hecuba, and the story takes place after the war is over. So the war is over, the Greeks invaded, they got their wooden horse to go in there, be all secret, and cause destruction on the city. Now the ghost tells the readers, I'm in the land of Hades now. I'm in the realm of the dead, and I'm no longer in the living. So we find out, okay, this is another one of the kids of Hecuba that ended up dying in the war. He ended up just being a byproduct of it. And then the story jumps to Hecuba, and Hecuba is already inside the camps of the Greeks waiting to depart. They still haven't allotted their numbers and said who's gonna go where. So she's just there waiting to see where she's gonna go. And Hecuba wasn't, she's never lived the life of a slave. She was the queen of the city, the queen of Troy, the wife of King Priam, and the mother of their hero Hector and Paris and all the others, the famous people in the Greek literature. You got Cassandra, she even sheltered Helen during at one point. Even if she didn't want her there, she sheltered her with Priam. And you see her talking and she's saying, woe is me. Woe is me for having this life of mine. I can't believe the towers have fallen. She says, but at least I have my children. And then comes in the messenger. And the messenger says, hey, the son of Achilles wants blood for the tomb of his father. He wants a sacrifice to honor his father who did so much in this battle. And he is just a hot-headed dude. He's very aggressive, And so they decided, we're going to sacrifice your, daughter that you have with you. Polyxena was allotted to be sacrificed, and Hecuba says, no, take me instead. I'm an old lady, I've lived my life, she's young, she has a future ahead of her, do not sacrifice her. I'd rather take her place than die. Or if you're gonna take her against my will, I'm going with you. You're gonna have to kill me at my knees. And they're like, you don't want to do that. Odysseus comes in, he's like, you don't want to do that, just let this happen. This is for the greater good. If this is what the camp wants, this is what the camp gets. And Polyxena actually decides, she's like, I have a say in this too. She's like, why is nobody talking to me about it? She says, I would rather die for a cause than to live as a slave. And the mother's like, don't say such things. It's not going to happen to you. You're not going to die. And Polyxena's like, let me go. Let me go with grace and beauty and dignity. Let me live my last few moments for a purpose, She's like, so much has ended in this war. She's like, and I don't want my purpose to be one of those things that died with the war. And so she decides, she goes, and the men escort Polyxena out to the tomb of Achilles. And when she's there, I really thought she was gonna be quiet and simple, but here is the son of Achilles at the top of the mountain saying, bring the girl. And the two soldiers grab Polyxena by her arms, and she's like, no, don't touch me. She's like, I'm gonna go on my own. She walks up there and she starts calling the men out. She's like, this is what you guys want? This is what makes you happy? This is what you guys consider courageous? And she rips her chest, her shirt open, and she's like, you're gonna kill a woman? You're gonna sacrifice an innocent woman who has nothing to do with your pride and your ego? And then it's said in the story that she was showing them everything that she could and hiding from them the one thing that she needed to hide. It never says what it was, but I'm thinking it's fear, She hid that side of her. She showed them everything, even literally she showed them everything, but she hid her true intentions, and she wanted them to feel, guilty for what they were about to do, because it's messed up what they're about to do. They sacrificed a daughter to start the war, the daughter of Agamemnon, and now they're sacrificing another girl to end the war. And it's like, when are you guys gonna end sacrificing all these innocent women who have nothing to do with these men's ego? So then she goes up to the son of Achilles, and she willingly goes, and he kills her, sacrifices her. That's it. It jumps back to Hecuba, and she's, woe is me, my daughter's dead. What else do I have to live for? I can't go on. And she tells one of the tent slaves, she says, go fetch me some water from the sea so that I can wash my daughter before her burial. I want her to be clean when she goes to the realm of Hades. And the woman that she sent out, she goes to the sea and she sees a floating body, and she suspects who it might be. And she goes back and she confirms who it is, and they tell Hecuba, hey, your son Polydorus, the one that was in the beginning of the play, the ghost, she's like, they found his body and he's been floating. And she's like, what? She's like, that can't be. She's like, so it's just back-to-back pain, She's like, this can't be. She's like, I sent him off to a king, Polymestor. There's so many Polys in the story. Polymestor, she was like, I sent him with him so that he could protect him when we gave him gold. And then she's like, why would he do this? And then she started thinking it was for money. She's like, he just wanted to keep the money and didn't want to protect my kid at all. So She's like, that rat bastard, I hate that guy, like I can't believe. So now she has 2 kids dead after her whole city was destroyed, and all of her family, her husband, her other kids, the last 2 that she had remaining are gone too. Well, besides Cassandra, and Andromache, kind of, her daughter-in-law. But she's just like, woe is me, and then she starts changing, you know. This one man finds her in a room. It jumps to another scene later on. This one man comes and talks to her, and she's on the floor, she's just lying there, and then she feels nothing, you know. And the man tells her, he's like, weren't you the queen of this great city, and you're here lying on the floor with a bunch of rags and other slave women? He's like, where's your pride? And she's like, don't talk to me if you don't know anything about suffering. She's like, you have no idea who you're talking to. She's like, don't speak to me like that. And then she starts getting these ideas. She's like, you know what? I gotta see Polymestor, the guy that her son was sent off to. She's like, I need some help. So then Agamemnon comes, one of the, if not the leader of the war that sacked the city. He comes and he feels sorry for her because of everything that she lost. And he's like, you know, I'm sorry. I want to make things right. I want to help. He doesn't say those words directly, but he means them with the way he approaches her, because he's a stubborn guy. He approaches her with an open mind, and he's like, what can we do to make you feel more comfortable? And she's like, I want to see Polymestor. And he was like, okay. He's like, I could arrange that. I could arrange for you to see Polymestor. And so Agamemnon leaves, and he actually ends up later on taking Cassandra, the last daughter of Hecuba. So they're kind of a family now. Not really, but, you know, kind of. And so Polymestor starts coming. He comes, and then the Hecuba has a plan with all of her women, and he comes with men and his children, and she tells him, she's like, Polymestor, she's like, my old friend, and she pretends to be friend, and she pretends she's so thankful for everything. She's like, I can't believe you took care of my son. She's like, how is he? And he's like, oh, he's good. She's like, how's the treasure? Was it enough? And he's like, oh yeah, it was fantastic, you know, like everything's going great. And she's like, good. She's like, actually, she's like, I wanted to thank you so much. And she's like, and now that the war's over, there's another storage of gold that I want to give to you. And he's like, really? She's like, yeah. She's like, but I want it for your ears only. All your men need to leave. And she's like, come in the tent with me. And then he was like, oh, his greed got to him again. He's like, ooh. He's like, okay. He's like, but my kids are going to come with me too. And she's like, yeah. Bring your kids. And then she's like, okay. She's like, let's go inside and let's talk a little bit so I can tell you all these secrets. And so they go inside, and then now it's the chorus talking from outside the tent. And they just hear screams, butchering screams, just horrific, of a man begging for his life. He's like, no, please, no. And he's just hollering, and the chorus is just like, I hate hearing this. And then the scene that comes out later is they open the tent, and then Hecuba's in the corner of the tent just watching him, and Polymestor had his eyes gouged out. He was bleeding, leaking blood, and his eyeballs were ripped out. And he was just like looking, he was all blind, and he was like looking, and he was like, I can't believe you did this. And he's like, I'll kill you if I find you, Hecuba. He's like, where are you? And he was like knocking over tables and cups and all these things, and he was trying to find her, and she was just there in the corner just watching him. And, you know, people heard the commotion, and he started screaming for help. He's like, help. And Agamemnon comes, and he's like, what? He's like, what just happened? And he's like, Hecuba, what'd you do? And the blind guy's like, Hecuba. He's like, you're still here, you animal? He's like, he starts trying to fight her, and Agamemnon's like, whoa. He's like, chill out. He's like, let me be the judge of what this all happened. He's like, I know a thing or two about being a host too. He's like, we Greeks and the Trojans have very similar customs. You don't hurt someone who you take in, right? As a host, you have to respect your guests. That's one of the laws of the Greeks. And so Agamemnon tells him, he's like, tell me your side of the story. Let me see what happens. And the blind guy was, you know, Polymestor. He was like, I'm just an innocent man. You know, I was doing the best thing for you. He's like, I killed her son because of, you know, I didn't want him to come after you. And he tried to play everything in his favor, and he tried to be the victim. And Hecuba calls out all of his lies. She's like, you know, you're wrong because of this, and this. And she breaks down his entire thesis. And so Agamemnon's like, well, you know what? I believe Hecuba. He's like, I really think that what she did here was justified. He's like, I think she's telling the truth, and I think you're full of, you know, empty words. And the guy, he starts getting these prophecies. And in Greek mythology, there's always that blind prophet. You know, the Teiresias is the major one. But every time there's someone blind, they start having visions. You know, they lose their physical aspect, but they see something that can't be seen with eyeballs. And he's like, oh yeah. He's like, I know what's gonna happen to you. He's like, I know that Cassandra's gonna, you know, go to your house, Agamemnon, and butcher your family, and she's gonna be the cause of your ruin. And he starts telling Hecuba, he's like, and you, Hecuba, you're gonna be on one of the king's ships, and you're gonna be a red dog that falls from the mast, the highest point of the ship. She's like, you're gonna fall from the top of the mast all the way down, and that's meant to symbolize her fall from grace. You know, she fell from being the queen of Troy all the way down to being a butchering, eyeball gouging, hideous monster. And the guy even says that in the meantime that they were in the tent, he explains that Hecuba not only gouged his eyeballs out, but the women held him down so that she could do it. And all the women took all of his spears and like, oh, what nice shiny weapons you have, Mr. King, sir. And they started taking it away, stripping him of all of his armor, and they end up hurting his kids. They end up killing Polymester's kids. Just like the saying goes, an eye for an eye makes the world blind. He killed one of her kids, and now she killed one of his. And literally, this man is blind from, an eye for an eye. And I thought that was very interesting. And he says that Hecuba will just, live a life as a dog. And in some paintings, she has very dog-like characteristics, or they paint her as a dog in classic literature because she fell from grace not only literally in her status of life as a queen down to a slave, but even morally. She was a person of high class. She was a person who would have business meetings and talk to you and elegant speeches. But now she became this woman who literally pulls eyeballs out of people's faces with rusty knives. And it's just it's interesting to see that that's how they portrayed it to be. And then the play ends up going to the end about how she was kind of justified, and then it goes on to the next one, which is part of a 3-part series. But I just thought this was a really good play that nobody really talks about. It just really piqued my mind. I was like, man, this is so juicy, and I just wanted to talk about it with you guys. I also wanted to add that this story is about the effects of war and how it affects not only the people that went to war, but the loved ones and the societies afterwards, or even during, because during the war, the women weren't just sitting back and, having a good time. They were worried, they were stressed, they were concerned about their husbands, brothers, sons. And then after the war is over, not only the ones that win the war are they put a little bit at ease, but they're also stressed too. As they're coming back from war, how are they going to be afterwards? Even the women, what they went through, and all the relatives that stayed behind, what their thought process was. Because this war of Troy lasted for 10 years, so everything's changed. Penelope of Odysseus, she was over here being lured by all these men, and it's not easy to just pick up and pretend like nothing happened. It's a whole transitional phase. Just like how the soldiers had to transition being back to civilians, the other people that stayed at home also had the transition of welcoming them back in. And it's a whole idea of how they're affected by it. They also weren't having a fun time. They were also in their own little battles, fighting their own struggles that were going on. And this story really gives you that inside look of how their minds were and how much they actually suffered from having all of their loved ones go and kill other people's loved ones, and the repercussions of that. If you guys have any more information on stuff that you guys, any other plays that you recommend, because I've read a few, but not a lot. I've read more literature than plays, but these plays are really good. Let me know what you guys think of the story. If you've read it, any comments, any other, symbolisms, just like Hecuba and the dog. And if not, I hope you guys enjoyed this, and take care.